Okay, so I'm going to show you how to mix plaster. Normally you want a bucket that's pristinely clean with no old plaster, and this is actually made as a bucket liner so that you can mix plaster in the bucket and then crinkle it out. But I need more plaster than this will allow me to make, so I'm experimenting. I double bagged 2 plastic bags and put them in this bucket with a little knot, so hopefully they'll work as a liner. The particles from plaster are very bad to breathe in, so I'm going to wear my OSHA approved fine dust and mist respirator. And the other thing I've done is I removed jewelry because plaster can stick to stuff. So I'm going to put my mask on. The bucket is already filled with water that's about 68 degrees, fairly cool. We do not want warm water because it'll speed up the reaction. Pottery plaster. I'm using No.1 Pottery Plaster because it is denser than plaster of Paris. And maybe you can see that the bag is plastic paper, because if humidity gets into this, it will destroy it. So it needs to be kept in a really dry place. So this has been stored in a plastic tub and hopefully it's still working. Hands are dry. So what you want to do is sift the plaster between your hands into the center of the puddle. And this is a slow process. I don't know if this video can run long enough to get to the point where the plaster is ready. We'll see. This is helping me to remove any lumps that might be in there. I'm making a single part mold. In the other room I've embedded some fairly flat objects into a slab of clay so I can make a textured cup. I cut out a template and I made sure that the slab of plaster and clay that I prepared will be big enough to allow me to put a slab on, cut my template out, and form a sort of tornado shaped cup. So right now the plaster is just all getting absorbed. It takes great patience. If I were making a 2-piece mold, I would need to weigh the plaster and measure the water and make sure that both halves of the mold had the same ratio of plaster to water. As if there was a denser plaster mix, it might absorb more moisture from my casting slip and lead to warping. This doesn't matter for me though, 1 part mold, who cares? Okay. People will also make little wedging boards out of plaster, so if you're at home in your home studio, you can use something like this. Pour some plaster in, peel the cardboard away, and you have this nice clean rectangle, so you can dry out some of your super wet clay, wedge it up, and reuse it. Okay. I think I'm getting a little island in the middle, and then what'll happen is it'll just disappear. Even that's going to disappear pretty quickly. So the idea is that you have to let each particle of plaster slake its own thirst. You have to let it absorb the water. You can't stir it. You have to wait till everything's absorbed before you begin your mixing. So each little particle is equally wet. It's getting there. So I'm doing this in the painting studio with paper down because plaster of Paris is not compatible, or any type of plaster is not compatible with ceramics. If this powder gets into the clay, it won't shrink in the firing. You can end up with things breaking during the firing process. So it's starting to get there. It's slaking its thirst more slowly, but I'm going to wait and be patient now. It's starting to go. Maybe that's enough. I've got stuff on the side I'm going to take in. I might need a little more. So I'm going to go with more conservative amounts right in the middle. A little island. It's very tedious, this mixing of the plaster. That's looking pretty good to me. I can see it's absorbing slowly, slowly. So while that's finishing up, I'm going to put the plaster back in the bucket. Tucking it away. Okay, so now the agitation part. So what I'm going to do is immerse my palm into the bucket at the bottom, and I'm going to just rotate my hand like this. So I want to stir, but I don't want to create air bubbles. So I'm just doing this rotating agitation. And this part can take a long time. You think it's never going to set up. Feels thick, like pancake batter at the bottom. So what I'm going to do when this is mixed is carry it into the other room where I prepared my mold and pour the mold, but I'll turn this part of the video off. And then I'll go in and then I'll pour it in the other room. Okay, my hand's getting tired. So I cannot take my hand and rinse it off in the sink, because this plaster on my hand will destroy the plumbing. So I'm going to fill a second bucket of water, and I'm going to do my first hand rinsing in the water there. I'll get that right now. My hand's getting tired. So then I can do my first rinse in here, and then what I actually have to do is let all the water evaporate. And once it's evaporated, I can take the plaster at the bottom and chuck it in the trash. Okay, it doesn't look like much is happening, but it is starting to thicken. Okay. I hope I mixed enough. My mold. I'd like my the slab that I'm making as my mold to be about 1.5 inches thick. If it's not thick enough, sometimes people will push in a piece of fabric to sort of strengthen it. Okay, so now when I run my finger across the top, you're seeing a line, and I think that means it's set. So I'm going to rinse my hands. Not set, it's ready to go. Turn the camera off, and we'll bring this into the other room. Stop.